Shalom, everyone.
Shalom, family.
We want to talk about Brother Polight and why some of the Hebrew brothers don't like Brother Polight. Now, if you go on the internet and you type up Brother Polight on YouTube, you'll see this young man who he's married to. He has 3 wives, and he has businesses, and he's just doing all kinds of things, And we don't know what his religion is. We know he's not a Hebrew Israelite, okay? But we know he's more so into Egyptology and that type of stuff,
When we say we know he's not a Hebrew Israelite, we're basically saying that he doesn't follow after the teachings of Hebrew Israelites.
That's right.
But it's a good chance that he is an Israelite by blood, and he may not know it. And we've seen a number of his different videos. And the reason why I say that, in case Brother Polight sees this, the way it's being presented is as if this is a religion. And I know that when he talks with a lot of these brothers, they're going back and forth beefing and stuff. And a lot of them get very upset and angry at him and, saying this, that, and the other. And when he comes at them, he's bringing a lot of knowledge. And some of the brothers bring some knowledge too. But the problem is they've turned it more into a war and a battle type thing. It's hard to win somebody or reach someone when you're talking nonsense, you see. Now we weren't really trying to get into all of that. The reason why we're bringing up Brother Polight is because there's a movement going on amongst the Hebrew Israelites. A lot of these Israelites are looking for the multiple wife thing. They want to have a lot of wives, you see. And Brother Polight, he's been there, done that. He has 3 wives, okay? But here's the deal. It's our belief that a lot of our brothers are probably jealous of what Brother Polight has, okay? Because, number one, his family, his wives, his children, his business, their land, everything they own, everything seems to be structured very nice, and there seems to be harmony with all of that.
Good order, too. And another thing I noticed about Brother Polight, he seems to be a hard worker.
Yes. He seems to be a hard worker.
Yeah, he seems to be taking care of his wives and his children.
Right.
He's not pushing them all out there to do all the work, and he's sitting back with his feet up.
They are all working together.
That's right.
And that is not the narrative that some of our Israelite brothers are pushing.
That's right.
And I know they get very angered easily. They get angered very easily too. You see, you don't see Brother Polight out there calling black women this, that, and the other, calling them B's and H's. Now, we don't buy into that whole black woman queen type stuff. We don't buy into all of that because in ancient times, every woman wasn't a queen. You had lay people. Every man wasn't a king. You had one king, you had one queen, and everybody else were just lay people, you see.
Right.
So we don't buy into all of that black woman is the queen or the god and all of that. We don't get off into all of that. So, and neither are we trying to endorse any of his ideology because we don't know everything that he believes.
Right, exactly.
We're only talking about family structure here, okay? Right. And we've mentioned before that the polygyny thing is not something that's for us, okay?
Right.
And we feel that if you're going to look at a good example of how it's working, that family structure, okay? We keep saying structure because we're not talking about all the other stuff that they're doing.
And business too.
Right. Right, their family structure, which includes their business as well, is what we're referring to. Right. But when I look at how a lot of the Israelites are doing things, they're very brutal towards their women. There doesn't seem to be any love or cohesion. And I'm not saying that that's every case. But when you look at Brother Polight and how he deals with his wives, how they talk about him, how he talks about them, when all 3 of them one day gave their testimonies about their husband, all 3 of them had loving, beautiful words to speak about this brother. All of the children had beautiful, loving words to speak about their father, you see. But when I look at a lot of the Israelite women who are in situations like this, not all of them, okay, but a lot of them seem to be very oppressed. They're not dealing with anything in terms of on the forefront. They're more like, some of them seem like slaves. I'm sorry. Some of them seem like they're slaves. They're not being treated as a wife that is loved or beloved of their husband, you see. And I don't believe that's how the Most High intended things to be. Right. I don't believe you're supposed to be treating your women like trash. I just don't believe that.
That's right. talking to them any kind of way, belittling them, They don't even have a say-so in anything, And when I look at Brother Polight and his wives and the way they deal with them in business, they know business, they run business, and they handling their business, and they get all of this authority from him. This is what you're going to handle, this is what you're going to handle. They all work together, and it's flowing. I don't see nothing wrong with it. To me, it looks pretty blessed, Of course, you can't be too blessed if you don't have our Father Elohim,
right?
Yahuwah, you have a different teaching or whatever. But we're talking about the family structure of it all. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the way he's doing things. But I think that a lot of people a lot of brothers are kind of, what's the word?
Jealous.
Yeah, a little bit jealous of them. Hey, I look over at them and I say, hey, okay, brother. Ain't no point in getting jealous of them,
Do your thing. We wish you would come to the truth, but we understand that it's hard to do that too when you're listening to people who are profaning the name of the Most High and making this seem like it's some crazy cult. So we do see that. But when you study for yourself and you get an understanding of what the word actually says, you can move past all of that stuff, because not everybody who's out here teaching should be teaching. And you have a lot of people saying things that make other folk run the other way. And so if you're listening to people who are just mixing the word up, talking about raping kids and doing stuff like that, of course you're gonna turn people off. You're gonna make people feel like, I don't want to be a part of that. So again, we're not really trying to endorse his religious ideology or anything like that. Talking about family structure only. Not getting into everything that they do, because we don't agree with everything. Okay, we don't agree with everything. We're just talking about family structure.
That's right. Now Brother Polight sees us and he want to talk to us. I would love to talk to him. I honestly believe that if what we believe was brought right to a person with good understanding, then it's easy to accept. You know what I mean? But it has to be brought right, And sometimes when you're hearing things, because I'm going to tell you, when I was first hearing people talk about this Hebrew Israelite thing or whatever, I was running for the hills getting away from this stuff. I didn't want to know about it. I ain't want no parts of it, until I started researching on my own. You see, me and my wife started researching. But I know that if the right person were to talk to someone, regardless of how they can be against something, but if the right person talked to them and can effectively show history and other things that have occurred through time and why things are like it is, then I think that people can be won.
Exactly, because a good example of that is the Whited Out documentary. In the Whited Out documentary, we did talk about Egypt and all of that being a black land. So we understand the history of mankind, period. We know that Egypt was a black land. We know that the Israelites were black. We know that the Canaanites, we know a lot of people throughout history were black. Adam and Eve, the first humans on earth, black people, you see. So we did that documentary. That's a good place to start. Anyone like Brother Polight or anyone who is looking at this Hebrew Israelite thing like it's some crazy cult. When you look at things from a historical standpoint and understand that the earth in general was populated by so-called black people, what is the fight? You see, but our whole thing is, where do we all fit into all of that? How do we know we're Egyptians, or whether we were the ancient Israelites, or whether we're Canaanites or whatever? How do we know that? And that's what we're talking about. Being able to decipher where we are and where these people are in the world today.
That's right.
So it's a good chance that most of us so-called black people who came over here during the transatlantic slave trade are Israelites, you see. Now, if there were so-called black people here before the slave trade, they are probably not Israelites. And a lot of you won't agree with that, but we are doing a documentary on that to kind of explain who the so-called black people that were here were. They weren't Israelites, you see.
That's right.
And so anyone watching this and trying to make some sense of whether or not you're an Israelite or whether you're not whether or not you're an Egyptian. We've talked about a number of those things. We've put it in various documentaries, and we just think that sometimes our brothers, when they're teaching and saying things, it can make other people look at this whole Israelite awakening like it's nothing but pipe dreams, lies, religious cult type stuff. You see, but we're talking about history, who we are as a people. We ain't talking about the religious aspect at all, because when you look at it as a religion, of course you're going to run the other way. You know, that's what we wanted to do too when we saw all these cussing brothers on the street corners, you see. But we couldn't ignore it. We couldn't ignore facts of our history and how we got here.
That's right.
And where do we go from here?
That's
so
right.
we just hope that a lot of our brothers can, you know, begin to pipe down a bit as it relates to how they're teaching. You know, it's going to take the Most High to do that. The Most High is going to do some humbling. You see, His Word talks about that. He talks about those who have this brute beast mentality. He's going to do some humbling. Because if people can't do things the way He wants it to be done, He's going to do some humbling.
That's right. You know, one thing I've learned too is that just because somebody is of a certain religion doesn't mean that they don't have anything positive in their life that you can learn from. Okay? Now, the proof is, a lot of us go to school, right? Who you learn from in the school? You ain't learn from no Hebrew Israelite that know the truth. And when you go to school to learn carpentry or plumbing or electrical, right?
You learn it from mostly Romans.
That's right. So then what I mean by that is, even though Brother Polight may be whatever religion that he may be, quit looking over there at Brother Polight and other religions, even Christians for that matter. There's some Christians out there that you can learn something from. It sure is.
Yep.
You see? So quit looking at everybody because of their religion and what they teach and just, oh, nope, because he's that, I don't want to hear nothing you got to say or whatever. Well, then you might as well just don't go to school and don't do that. How you going to learn electric? If you want to be a plumber, how you going to learn it? How you going to learn it? Huh? See? So basically what I mean is, we got to learn how to shed all of that stuff, you know, and learn how to be able to receive truth from various sources. If it's truth, it's truth, no matter where it comes from, right? Right. Truth is truth, you know.
One thing we heard Brother Polight, he was talking about how different food and what it does to you and all this different stuff. So when we look at this family, we brought them up for a reason.
Yeah.
Because despite the religious stuff, okay, we see that they're well-rounded in a number of different issues, and the proof is in the pudding, okay? The proof is in the pudding. When you look at how they live and how they're raising their children very smart. They got businesses and land and all kinds of things. When you look at all of that stuff, you got to ask yourself, how did they get there? Now, we did hear the testimony of how some troubles he had back in the day, and how when he and his first wife, they came to an agreement on how they were going to build their life from there. And they built it one brick at a time.
That's right.
And look at where they are now, you see. And so if they could just come on over into the truth, that would just be the icing on the cake, you see.
Yeah, exactly.
But it'll be hard for them to do that as long as these fruitless battles are going back and forth with so-called Hebrew Israelites who are supposed to be awakening our people, not throwing stones and killing and with words, killing with words. So I had to say that part because ain't no Hebrew Israelites out here doing that, you see. But just demolishing people's understanding by teaching their own. You see, we can't get an understanding by you teaching your understanding. You have to teach the truth. You see, and you can only do that if the Most High calls you and sends you. You know, no man can preach except he be sent.
He got to be sent.
He has to be sent of the Most High.
So if you ain't sent, you need to be sitting down, praying, seeking the Most High, because he hasn't called you. Then if he hasn't called you, if you're not sent, you're not called. But anyway, I hope we shine some light a little bit on Brother Polight and what he's doing. Like we said before, you know, he is a good example
of what a polygynous marriage should look like.
And not only that, even the way he's running his business, his whole household and everything. There's nothing wrong with saying that, brothers. Okay? Well, on that note, we're going to say shalom.
Shalom.